Take a slow breath in and let it go. You've carried a lot today, more than you probably needed to. And now, at last, you are here, in this quiet space, at the end of everything the day asks of you, and can set it all down. Not just the tasks, not just the things left undone, or the things said, or the thoughts that kept returning throughout the day like uninvited guests. All of it. The weight of being a person in a busy world. You can set it down now. Let your body grow a little heavier where you're lying. Feel the mattress beneath you, the way it holds you without effort, without asking anything in return. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw go soft. Let your hands rest open and still. You don't need to do anything with this time. You don't need to arrive anywhere or achieve anything or become anything at all. You only need to rest. And so I'd like to take you somewhere, somewhere unhurried, somewhere the air is clean and the world moves slowly, and the only sounds are the kinds of sounds that have existed for thousands of years before any of this modern noise began. I'd like to take you to a lighthouse. Picture a coastline, not a dramatic one, no towering cliffs or no crushing storms, just a long, low headland of dark rock and tough coastal grass, jutting gently out into the sea like a slow exhalation. The kind of pace that feels as though it has been here forever, as though it grew from the earth rather than being made. It is early evening. The sun has slipped below the horizon perhaps half an hour ago, and the sky still holds the memory of it. A warm, fading ember low in the west, bleeding upward through gold and rose into a deep, quiet blue overhead. The first stars have begun to appear, faint at first. Then, as your eyes adjust, more and more of them, tiny, steady points of light scattered across the darkening sky like something ancient and patient waiting to be noticed. The air here is cool, not cold, just cool enough to feel refreshing against your skin. It carries the salt of the sea and something else, something harder to name, a clean green smell from the low grass and the moss that grows between the rocks, a mineral sharpness from the stone itself, and underneath it all, the wide open smell of the ocean, of distance, of space. You breathe it in, and something inside you, something that has been braced and contracted all day without you fully realizing it, begins very slowly to let go. The path along the headland is narrow and worn smooth by years of foot traffic. It winds between patches of low heather and sea campion, small white flowers that nod gently in the evening breeze, and then rises very slightly toward the tip of the headland where the land meets the sea on three sides. And there, at the very end of the path, at the very tip of the world, stands the lighthouse. It is not a grand lighthouse. It doesn't need to be. It stands perhaps 20 meters tall, a round tower of whitewashed stone with a broad strip of faded red around its middle, worn by decades of sea weather to a soft dusty rose. The glass lantern room at the top catches the last of the evening sky and holds it, a small globe of reflected light, not yet lit from within, but already luminous in its own quiet way. Beside the tower, connected by a short covered walkway, is a stone cottage, low roofed, square windowed, solid and compact, as though it has settled deeply into the rock over many years and made peace with being there. The walls are the same whitewashed stone as the tower, softened now to a warm cream in the evening light. The window sills are painted a dark blue green, the color of the sea on an overcast day. And from the chimney at the cottage's eastern end, a thin ribbon of smoke rises and drifts away from the breeze. Someone is home. You follow the path to the cottage door, a heavy wooden door, painted the same blue green as the window sills, with an iron handle worn smooth. And you listen for a moment before knocking. From inside, the soft sound of movement, the clink of crockery, the low murmur of a kettle beginning to warm. His name is Elias. He opens the door without surprise, as though he was expecting you, and perhaps in some way he has. He was. People in quiet places often seem to have a sense for when company is coming. He is a tall man, broad through the shoulders, with silver hair cut close to his head and a short, neatly kept beard gone entirely white. His face is deeply lined, not the lines of worry or unhappiness, but the particular lines of a person who has spent a great deal of time outdoors, squinting at the sea and the sky, paying close attention to weather. His eyes are pale, steady gray. They are calm eyes, the kind of eyes that have watched a great many sunsets and have long since stopped being in a hurry about anything. He is wearing a heavy wool sweater, the color of oatmeal, and dark trousers tucked into thick socks. He looks, in every way, like a man who is exactly where he is supposed to be. He steps back to let you in, and you follow him into the warmth of the cottage kitchen. The kitchen is small, but entirely organized. There's a cast iron stove set into the far wall, its door slightly ajar, the orange glow of the fire visible within. Above the stove, a wooden rack hangs from the low ceiling where a few sprigs of dried herbs are suspended. Thyme and something else, sweet and faintly floral. A wide wooden table occupies the center of the room, its surface scrubbed pale and clean, worn into gentle hollows at the places where Elias found most often sets his things. Two leather backed chairs are tucked beneath it. Along the wall beside the door, a row of iron hooks where his heavy coat hangs, and below it, a pair of rubber sea boots lined up with their toes pointed outward. A shelf above the hooks holds a row of small objects, a smooth piece of green sea glass, a brass compass, a folded tide chart, a small wooden carving of a bird he made himself one winter, he will tell you, when the weather's kept him indoors for 11 days straight. On the table, the logbook, a large square book with dark blue covers lying closed, a pen placed across it at a careful angle, a mug not yet filled, waiting. Along the shelves that line the wall opposite the stove, books, dozens of them, field guides to seabirds, to coastal plants, to cloud formations, a few novels with cracked spines and folded corners, essays, a compendium of lighthouse histories, a battered almanac open to this month's tide tables, its margins filled with small, precise annotations in Elias's hands. He reads a great deal in the evenings, Elias. He will tell you this simply, without apology or pride, as though it is simply the most natural thing in the world, which, in this place, it is. The kettle is already beginning to murmur on the stove. Elias moves towards it without hurrying, the way a person moves in their own home when there's no reason to rush anything, and opens the small wooden box on the shelf above the stove where he keeps his loose leaf tea. He selects a spoonful, sets it into the small ceramic strainer that rests across the top of his mug, takes the kettle. It is just beginning to sigh, not yet a full boil, exactly right, and pours the water in a slow, thin, steady stream. The steam rises. The smell of tea fills the small kitchen, something warm and slightly smoky, with a faint sweetness underneath. Elias sets the kettle down and opens the logbook. He writes the time at the top of the evening entry in his careful, unhurried handwriting. He writes the date. Then he moves to the cottage window and studies the sky for a moment. His gaze slowed and practiced, reading the clouds, feeling the temperature, noting the direction of the wind by the way the grass moves on the headland, and returns to the right what he has observed. Wind northwest, speed approximately 8 knots, easing, cloud cover, thin cirrus at altitude, clearing from the west, sea state, moderately swell from the southwest, period of 9 seconds, wave height approximately 1 meter, visibility excellent, barometric pressure rising steadily. He reads it back to himself once more, silently, checking it against what he knows, and then caps his pen and sets it across the book in exactly the same position it was before. 31 years he has kept this logbook. 31 years of morning entries and evening entries, of weather observations and shipping sightings and maintenance records and small, careful notations of a life lived in close attention to the world. The logbook itself has changed many times. He is on his 42nd volume, but the practice has never changed, not once in 31 years. There's something in that steadiness that you find sitting here in his warm kitchen, watching him work, deeply and quietly reassuring. Tonight, Elias has made soup, a simple soup, potato and leek, thickened with a little cream, seasoned with the thyme from the rack above the stove. He made it this afternoon during his off watch hours and left it in the heavy pot on the back of the stove where it has been keeping warm and slowly deepening in flavor all afternoon. He ladles it into a wide bowl and carries it to the table along with a piece of brown bread cut thick from a round loaf on the counter. He sits, pulls the bowl toward him, and eats. He doesn't eat quickly. He doesn't read while he eats. He doesn't look at anything in particular. He simply eats his soup and tears pieces of bread to dip in it, and occasionally glances out the kitchen window at the darkening sea. This is the kind of attention Elias pays to things, unhurried, present, undemanding. He has learned over many years that most moments are worth more than you actually inhabit them, that the soup is better when you taste it, that the evening is better when you look at it, that the silence is better when you let yourself be in it rather than filling it with noise. After supper, he washes his bowl and spoon at the small basin, the water from the tap cold and clean, the soap leaving the bowl faintly lemony, and sets it out to dry on the folded cloth beside the basin. Then he takes his coat from the hook, his rubber sea boots from the beside the door, and he steps outside for his evening walk. This is a ritual that Elias performs every evening without exception, in all weathers: rain, wind, fog, calm. It makes no difference. He walks the perimeter of the headland before lighting up time every single evening, because the walk tells him things that instruments cannot. Tonight, with the weather fine and the wind gentle, it is the most pleasant kind of walk. The sky overhead is deep blue black now, fully dark in the east and north, still holding the faintest suggestion of color in the west. The stars are out in force. The Milky Way is clearly visible, a broad, soft swath of light arching from the northeast to the southwest, dense and luminous and so vast that looking at it long enough to produce a particular feeling that there is somewhere between smallness and wonder. He walks slowly, hands in his pockets, his sea boots quiet on the path. He watches the water on three sides of the headland. He notes the direction and behavior of the swell, the way the sets of waves arrives in the groups, the spacing between them, the way they interact with the rocks at the base of the headland. He watches for anything unusual on the surface of the water, a vessel running without lights, debris, anything that needs noting. Tonight, there is nothing. The sea is clean and untroubled. One cargo vessel moving north northeast, about 8 miles out, well lit and on course. A pair of gannets, white shapes, improbably bright against the dark water, diving somewhere below the eastern face of the headland, even at this late hour. That is all. He stops for a while at the very tip of the headland, at the very spot where the rock drops away on the three sides to the water below. He stands there in the dark and the wind and the sound of the sea, and he breathes in and out. The sound of the ocean from this position is enormous, not loud. It is a calm night, but enormous. The way big things are. The way the sound of rain on the forest is enormous. It fills all the space around you without effort, without aggression. It simply is. It has been. It will be. Elias he stood at this spot more times than he could ever count, and it still does to him exactly what it did first time he stood there, 31 years ago, the night he arrived. It makes everything that felt urgent and important and loud go still. He turns and walks back toward the lighthouse. Inside the tower, the spiral staircase rises through the darkness. Elias takes it without rushing, one hand on the iron railing, worn smooth by decades of use, his footsteps soft and even on the stone steps, which are hollowed in the center from all the feet that has climbed there over all the years, his own and the keepers before him, going back further than anyone now living can remember. The staircase is cool and carries a faint smell of salt and old stone and the particular mineral scent of places that never quite reach full daylight. Small ventilation windows let in threads of sea air at each landing, and through them you can hear the ocean, closer now, directly below, and see in brief glances as you climb past each window the sweep of stars across the night sky. First landing, the equipment room. Elias pauses and pushes the door open, checks the spare parts cabinet, the seals and the gaskets and replacement bulbs, all in their labeled places. Checks the emergency logbook that hangs on the wall beside the door, notes the date of the last safety check, which is current, closes the door again. Second landing, the service room. He opens this one too and steps inside. This is where the mechanism lives, the motor and the gearing that turns the great lands above, the oil reservoir, the backup systems, the instruments. He moves through his checks with quiet efficiency. The oil level correct, the gear tension smooth, the backup battery indicator green, the motor temperature normal. He makes a note in the small pocketbook he carries in his breast pocket, all in order. He closes the service room and continues upward. Third landing, the watch room, just below the lamp room. A narrow space ringed by windows, with a fold down shelf that serves as a desk and a tall stool that Elias has sat on more nights than he can count. A pair of binoculars on a hook, a tide chart on pinned on the wall, a small radio that he keeps turned low throughout the night, tuned to the maritime weather service. On calm nights like tonight, it murmurs almost below the threshold of hearing, a distant voice reciting pressures and wind speeds and swell heights across sea areas whose names Elias knows as well as his own. From the watchroom windows, the sea is visible in every direction, dark and vast and softly moving in the starlight. The horizon, a long, clean line where the darkness and the water meets the darkness of the sky, barely distinguishable from each other. He climbs the final short flight of stairs into the lamp room. The lamp room is round, entirely enclosed in glass, a great curved panel set in an iron frame, each one in one kept scrupulously clean so that the light can pass through without distortion. The glass is misted slightly on the outside tonight with the salt spray that rides the sea air, and looking through it, the stars appear soft edged and slightly blurred, like lights reflected in still water. At the center of the room, the lens. It is a Fresnel lens, a type invented almost 200 years ago and still, in the opinion of many who worked with them, unsurpassed in elegance. It stands approximately a meter and a half tall, a great column of concentric glass rings, each ring ground to a precise angle that bends the light from a single bulb and gathers it and throws it out into a flat, powerful beam. Looking at it closely, you can see yourself reflected in its facets, small and curved, and somehow peaceful. Elias checks the lamp assembly one last time before the automated system activates it. The bulb housing secure, the lens rotation bearing clean and lightly oiled, the emergency override panel armed and ready. He runs a soft cloth over the nearest section of lens glass, not because it needs it, but because this is what he does. Because care applied consistently is how things last. He checks his watch, 7:14. He folds the cloth and sets it back in its place on the maintenance shelf. At 7:17 exactly, the mechanism activates. There's a low hum, felt more than heard, a vibration in the floor beneath your feet and the metal railing at the edge of the room. And then, with an almost gravity defying smoothness, the great lens begins to turn, slow, stately, certain. And then the light comes on. It fills the lamp room completely, a pure, brilliant white, and sweeps outward through the glass and across the sea in a long, reaching arc. From where you stand, looking out through the lamp room windows, you can see it, the beam traveling across the surface of the water, illuminating the small waves in its path for a moment, then turning them white and sparkling before moving on. The beam sweeps the full circle, passes the eastern horizon, crosses the north, finds the west, and returns. One full rotation every 12 seconds. Elias stands very still and watches it. He does this every evening at this moment, just watches, as though it is the first time. And perhaps it always feels a little like the first time. The light sweeps one, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and again. Elias descends to the watch room and settles onto his stool. He makes his final check of the evening. The binoculars raise to the horizon in each direction in turn, slow and methodical. North, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest. The cargo vessel he noted earlier is still moving north northeast, now perhaps 10 miles out and on course and well lit. There is nothing else on the water that requires attention. He sets the binoculars back on their hook. From the pocket on the side of his stool, he takes his book. He opens it at the marked page, a soft strip of faded ribbon serving as a bookmark, and tilts it towards the small lamp on the edge of the shelf. The book is a collection of essays about islands, about the particular quality of light and time and self that island living produces, and about the sea does to a way a person thinks, to the rhythms of their sleep, to their relationship with silence. He reads it slowly, as he does everything, and when a sentence pleases him, especially he reads it again, quietly, to himself, turning the words over in his mind the way you might turn a smooth stone over in your hand. Above him, through the floor of the lamp room, a soft, humming hum of the turning mechanism is just audible. The light sweeps, the sea moves, the radio murmurs its soft litany of weather information, too quiet to make out individual words. present only as a low, companionable sound. Outside, the stars have continued their slow arc across the sky. It is fully night now, the richest, deepest part of the dark, the hours when the world is most completely at rest. The temperature has dropped a few degrees, but the watchroom is warm from the lamp room heat above, and Elias sits in his sweater with his book and his thoughts with no desire to be anywhere else. He reads for perhaps 40 minutes. Then he closes the book carefully, sliding the ribbon to mark his place, and sits for a while in the quiet. This is something Elias does that most people in most places have forgotten how to do. He simply sits. No phone, no screen, no task to complete. He sits in the warm room above the turning sea and lets his mind go wherever he wants it to go, without directing it, without demanding anything of it. And gradually, in its own time, it settles. Like sediment in a jar of water, given enough stillness, it always settles. He thinks for a while about the letter he received this week from his daughter. She is living on the other side of the world now, working as a marine biologist, studying the migration patterns of gray whales. She wrote about a morning she spent on the water in a small inflatable boat, watching a mother and calf surface repeatedly within meters of her, close enough to hear their exhalations. The way she described it, the immensity of the creatures, the extraordinary gentleness of the calf's curiosity, the cold spray and the low early light, made him feel as though he had been there. He is proud of her. He thinks this simply and completely, without complication. He looks out toward the watchroom windows at the dark sea. The light sweeps, the stars hold their positions. The waves arrive and pass and arrive and pass, each one the same as the last and entirely unrepeatable. At 10 o'clock, Elias makes his final check of the night. He climbs to the lamp room one last time. The stairs now so familiar he could climb them in total, complete darkness, which sometimes in power failures long ago has had to do. The lamp room is warm from the heat of the lens. The beam turns. He checks the oil, the mechanism, the glass, everything in order. He descends. He closes and latches each door carefully as he goes. He records his final evening entry in the logbook. Weather unchanged, sea state easing, all systems normal, vessel traffic nil, and caps his pen for the last time tonight. He bangs the stove for the night, adding a single piece of dense hardwood to the firebox, adjusting the damper to let it burn and low through the small hours, enough to keep the cottage warm until morning. He puts out the kitchen lamp. The cottage settles into a soft, familiar darkness. The only light now comes from the stove's small window, a warm orange breathing amber. And from outside, from the low sweep of the lighthouse beam as it passes and returns across the cottage windows, casting brief, gentle bars of light across the walls and the ceiling and the floor. Sweep, dark, sweep, dark. Elias moves quietly through the cottage to his bedroom. The room is small and simply furnished, a bed and with a frame of dark iron covered in a heavy wool blanket of deep navy blue. A small bedside table with a glass of water and his pocket watch, which he set up face up to the same position every night. A low bookshelf, a window facing east, toward the sea, though which on clear mornings he can watch the sun rise from the bed without rising. He sets his watch on the table, sits on the edge of the bed, takes off his sweater and folds it over the chair in the corner, pulls back the blanket. Outside, the beam turns, the sea moves. The night holds everything gently in its enormous, unhurried hands. Imagine now that you are here too, not in Elias's room, somewhere nearby, a small room somewhere along the headland with a window that looks out to the sea and through which the lighthouse beam passes slowly every 12 seconds like a slow clock marking time in light rather than sound. Your bed is warm. The blanket is heavy across you. The particular comforting weight of a good blanket that makes you feel held, contained, safe. Your body is already beginning to let go. It knows what this darkness means. It knows what the weight of the blanket means. It knows the sound of the sea coming low and steady through the window means. Let your legs go heavy. Let your arms rest where they are, loose, heavy, still. Let your shoulders drop fully into the mattress. Let your face go soft, your jaw unclenched, your brow smooth, your eyes resting behind closed lids. The lighthouse beam passes across the ceiling above you, one slow bar of light, and then the dark again. Breathe in, slow and full, and out, slowly. The sea below the headland is very quiet tonight. The waves arrive in long, low sets, each one spending itself gently against the rock and pulling back in a soft exhale of foam. Shush, 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 like breathing, like you're breathing. You are safe here. You are far from everything that you needed you today. You are held in the deep quiet of this old patient place where the light has turned and the sea has moved and the stars have kept their watch far longer than anyone can remember. The beam sweeps. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In the cottage down the path, Elias is already asleep. He will wake before dawn, as he always does, not to an alarm, but simply because his body, after 31 years, has come to know this rhythm as naturally as the tides. He will rise to the dark and make his tea and climb the stairs and attend to the light and write his morning entry in the logbook. But that is tomorrow. That is many hours away. Right now, there is only the dark and the quiet and the slow turning of the light. Only the sea arriving and receding in its endless patient rhythm. Only your breathing, long and slow and soft. Let your thoughts go soft now, like light on water at the end of the day. Diffuse, gentle, spreading. There's nothing to hold on tonight, nothing that cannot wait. The light turns, the sea breathes. You are resting deeply, quietly, safely. Rest now, sleep.